Hello, I'm Soren. What you're about to witness is nothing less than pure presentation genius. The book being discussed, Wuthering Heights, however, is extremely dense and hard to follow. So what we did was provide a short summary of the plot.
So some fool Lockwood arrives at Thrushcross Grange, a pimpin' manor across the way from another fat crib called Wuthering Heights. After meeting his emo landlord Heathcliff, Lockwood hits up the maid Nellie and asks her to tell him what went down in his hood. Back in the day, the top dog of Wuthering Heights, Mr. Earnshaw, picked little Heathcliff off the street and decided to raise him as his own. At first, Earnshaw's two legit kids, Catherine and Henley, can't stand Heathcliff's freeloading ass. But soon, Catherine starts to get all sweet on my boy, and they start chilling on the reg. Henley still got beef, though, especially since Earnshaw favors Heathcliff. When Earnshaw checks out for good, Henley puts Heathcliff in his place and makes him work like a slave. Unacceptable. Everything's bumping till Heathcliff's Biddy meets Edgar from T-Cross Grange, who starts cock-blocking our boy by laying the mac on Catherine. Since Edgar's pants sagging from them $100 bills and Heathcliff broke his Catherine decides she's gonna marry Edgar even though she don't love him. Skank. But Heathcliff be all like, nah, f*** this. I'm out. And chunks deuces out of Wuthering Heights. Years later, Heathcliff comes back minted like a f***ing baller. Ain't nobody know where he got them swole dollars from. But he gonna use it to get back at all them haters who done shit in his cereal. Heathcliff swindles Henley and his son Harrington, jacks Wuthering Heights, and treats Henley like a bitch till he dies. Then he marries Edgar's sister, Isabella, just to get his hands on T-Grange. After Catherine dies birthing a little baby Kathy, Heathcliff's wife Isabella pieces out to London where she gives birth to Heathy's boy Linton. 10 years later, baby Kathy's still living in T-Grange, and Heathcliff got his boy Linton back. When Linton starts hollering at Kathy, Heathcliff forces them to marry so he can get his grubby hands on T-Grange. After Linton dies, Heathcliff got it all and keeps Kathy under lockdown. After a lot of time and choice words, Kathy warms up to Henley's son Harrington and they get engaged. But Heathcliff ain't never gonna see that day because Catherine's memory hunts Heathcliff so raw that it kills him.
I was wondering, could you resume telling me the tale of how Heathcliff's hatred for Henley began?
Oh, well, I suppose it all started once Mr. Earnshaw died. A few words from her, evincing a dislike to Heathcliff, were enough to rouse in him all his old hatred of the boy. He drove him from their company to the servants, deprived him of the instructions of the curate, and instead that he should labour out of doors instead, compelling him to do so as hard as any other lad on the farm. He bore his degradation pretty well at first, because Cathy taught him what she learnt, and worked or played with him in the fields. They both promised fair to grow up as rude as savages, the young master being entirely negligent how they behaved and what they did, so they kept clear of him. He would not even have seen after their going to church on Sundays. Only Joseph and the curate reprimanded his carelessness when they absented themselves, and that reminded him to order Heathcliff a flogging and Catherine a fast from dinner or supper.
So, Nellie, did Catherine and Heathcliff end up together?
Well, the short answer is no, they did not. The long answer is... Despite her love for Heathcliff, Catherine married Edgar for social purposes. Catherine secretly longs for Heathcliff. Her overpowering love torments her day by day. Heathcliff finally comes back, years later, to visit Catherine. During this time, Catherine is very pregnant with Edgar's child. During childbirth, Catherine dies. Edgar is stricken with grief. Heathcliff is as well, and he mourns for her. Edgar takes the death personally very hard, and it is hard to foresee a reasonable time at which he will return to his normal
So did Catherine and Heathcliff's love continue until her death?
Well, the love didn't continue per se because Catherine married Edgar, but yes, Catherine was always madly in love with Heathcliff, and Edgar always knew this, but Heathcliff's love for Catherine became even more apparent after Catherine's death, and I was there personally with Heathcliff, comforting him as he described his deep love for her over her dead body.
I pray one prayer. I repeat it till my tongue stiffens. Catherine Earnshaw, may you not rest as long as I am living. You said I killed you. Haunt me then. The murdered do haunt their murderers. I believe. I know that ghosts have wandered on earth. Be with me always. Take any form. Drive me mad. Only do not leave me in this abyss where I cannot find you. Oh God, it is unutterable. I cannot live without my life. I cannot live without my soul. So how did the death of Catherine affect Heathcliff?
Well, it obviously affected him very deeply. Afterwards, he was always not quite the same man as he was before. He was a lot more bitter and cruel, especially to his own son, Linton, who ended up moving to Wuthering Heights with Heathcliff. And this cruelty towards Linton was always apparent around the house.
Your mother was a miserable slut to leave you in ignorance of the kind of man your father is. I'm disappointed in you, you whey-faced, whining wretch.
Linton ended up forming a strong relationship with young Catherine. They played around, and because of Linton's sickly state, Catherine would actually take care of him. And eventually they formed a romance that lasted for quite a while.
So this is a remarkable story that you're telling me, Natalie. What about it most stands out to you?
Well, it's really, I agree with you. It's very remarkable, but what you have to understand is that it's really dramatic. It's more dramatic than anything else, and what is most essential to this drama that occurs, I would say, is the character development, which, I thought I did very well, but, it covers actually around a 50-year span from originally Mr. Earnshaw to after Heathcliff dies, and it's all very convoluted, but the most important thing is that the plot gets across and that the audience can understand what is going on.
I see. That's a good point.
Also, I would like to add that the story is very lyrical and very, I would have to say, descriptive, and these tiny little details all matter because they all add some significance to the story that brings the listener or reader even closer with the characters, which really helps overall understanding of what's going on and, human nature, the things that are discussed throughout this whole thing.
Well, thank you, Natalie. That was very informative.
No problem, Mr. Lockwood.